The shadows of the city. It was a brisk evening in the heart of Chicago, a city renowned for its unyielding pace, steel buildings, and the endless hum of traffic that never seemed to quiet. The streets, lit by the flicker of streetlights, were teeming with people, some rushing home after a long day, others meandering through the downtown shops. But beneath the surface, the city was harboring darker forces, and few knew how close they were to a storm that would rock the foundations of Chicago's underbelly. Characters introduced. Detective Sarah Reynolds. A seasoned investigator with the Chicago Police Department, Sarah was no stranger to crime. She had spent over a decade solving cases, from petty thefts to the most heinous of murders. But her expertise and calm demeanor masked a mind that was constantly seeking patterns in the chaos around her. Sarah had seen it all, or so she thought. Her latest case would prove that even she could be caught off guard. James Jimmy Turner, a small-time crook with big dreams, Jimmy had always thought he could outsmart the law. He had a natural talent for reading people, manipulating situations, and dodging consequences. Born into poverty, Jimmy found solace in the streets, using his charisma to climb through the ranks of the city's underworld. But despite his success in the criminal world, he often found himself haunted by a restless ambition that pushed him to dream bigger, to take risks he normally wouldn't have. Maria Vasquez. A brilliant young attorney with a sharp mind and an even sharper sense of justice, Maria had recently started working for a prominent law firm. Though she came from a humble background, she was determined to prove herself in a male-dominated profession. As a child of immigrants, Maria had always believed in the American dream. But as she began to get closer to the world of criminal law, she would realize that the system wasn't as fair as she once thought. Victor Vic Delgado, a ruthless drug kingpin who controlled the flow of narcotics in the city's west side. Vic, in his late 40s, had spent nearly half his life climbing the dangerous ladder of organized crime. He was known for his cold demeanor, quick temper, and utter lack of empathy. Vic's empire was vast, stretching from the crack houses of the west side to the high-rise condos of downtown. No one questioned his authority, and few had the courage to challenge him. The crime begins. The evening began like any other in the city. People shuffled in and out of bars, coffee shops, and restaurants. But in one corner of the west side, a darker scene was unfolding. Victor Delgado sat in his office, a sleek glass-walled space located on the top floor of a building in a formerly industrial neighborhood. The office, dimly lit and minimalist in design, was a stark contrast to the chaos happening outside its walls. Delgado wasn't interested in appearances. He valued power, and this office, like his entire operation, was designed for efficiency. The only decoration was a large, imposing portrait of himself on the wall. His phone rang, its shrill tone slicing through the silence of the room. It was one of his lieutenants calling with alarming news. "Vic, it's bad." The voice on the other end of the line was shaky. "The shipment, it's gone." Delgado's hand tightened around the phone. His voice, calm and composed, betrayed none of the anger building inside him. "What do you mean, it's gone?" "We were set up," the lieutenant explained, panic creeping into his words. "The truck was ambushed. We lost the entire shipment, and the men we sent to handle it, they're gone too. We don't know who did it yet, but the entire operation's compromised." Victor's face darkened as he processed the information. He had worked too hard to get where he was, and he wasn't about to let some nameless rival bring him down. The shipment he'd just lost wasn't just any shipment. It was the latest delivery of heroin, a batch that would ensure his grip on the city's drug trade remained unchallenged for the foreseeable future. Without a word, Victor hung up the phone. His mind was already working. He had to find out who was behind the betrayal, and he needed to do it fast. As the clock ticked, he made a mental note to contact his most trusted associates. He would get to the bottom of this. And if anyone was responsible, they would regret it. Across town, Detective Sarah Reynolds was about to be thrust into the case of her life. Sarah's dilemma. Detective Reynolds sat at her desk, scanning the case files that had piled up over the past week. Her colleagues were filing reports, making phone calls, and going over their own cases, but her focus was elsewhere. She had been assigned a particularly troubling case involving a series of robberies that had escalated to violent crime. The pattern was unsettling, and despite her best efforts, she couldn't find any leads that made sense. There was a dark connection she couldn't quite place. But just as she was about to dive deeper into her thoughts, her phone rang. The voice on the other end was familiar. It was Maria Vasquez, the young attorney from the firm she had met a few months earlier. Maria had become a trusted ally in the legal world, someone who understood the intricacies of the law and had helped Sarah on numerous occasions with insider information. "Sarah, I need your help." Maria's voice was tight with urgency. "I've got a case on my hands that involves one of your biggest suspects, Victor Delgado." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She had heard of Delgado, of course. Everyone in law enforcement knew his name. The drug kingpin had a long history of evading prosecution, and his empire had only grown stronger over the years. But until now, there hadn't been any concrete evidence linking him directly to any crimes. Maria continued. "I've been working on a case involving one of his low-level associates. The guy's been arrested and he's talking, Sarah. He's willing to give up everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. This could be the break we need to take down Delgado for good." Sarah's mind raced. This could be the chance she had been waiting for. But there was a catch. Maria's associate, a small-time criminal named Tommy T. Duran, was a slippery figure. He had been involved in everything from car thefts to drug distribution. If he was telling the truth, the ramifications could be huge, but getting to Victor Delgado would be like trying to pierce through solid steel. "I'll meet you tomorrow," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We'll figure this out." As Sarah hung up the phone, she couldn't shake the feeling that the city was on the brink of something monumental. Delgado had been operating unchecked for far too long, and now, with Maria's tip, there was a chance to dismantle his empire from the inside. But in a city like Chicago, nothing was ever that simple. The web of crime was too vast and the risks too high. The stage was set. As Sarah prepared for the meeting with Maria and Tommy, little did she know the course of her investigation and her life was about to take an irreversible turn. The wheels of fate were already in motion, and there was no turning back.